Thank you, Thomas. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Top of the morning. To anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Reverend Edward Trout. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a graduate of One Spirit Interfaith Seminary, and it is my pleasure to be your speaker here this morning. I want to start today with three very short stories. Who here is familiar with The Moth? You'll hear like Moth Radio Hour and things on NPR. So these are true stories, or at least true as the people remember them. And again, these are very brief. The first one is from a woman named Randy Skaggs, who was originally from Louisville, Kentucky. And she says that a stranger on the street said to me, "Get me some money, lady. You wouldn't be the first person I killed." I considered running, but I'm slow. So I did what I do best when I'm nervous. I just started talking. And I said, "I don't have it as bad as you do, sir, but I am sleeping on my floor right now, and all I ever eat are ramen noodles. Not that I've lost any weight or anything." And you know, people from Kentucky, they call and they say, "Oh my God, New York City." And I don't have the heart to tell them, I'm just a cliche. I'm the kid who moves up here to change the world with her theater, and I'm not going to change the world. My theater stinks, like really. I miss my mom. I miss porch swings. I miss sweet tea. So would you please not kill me so I can just go back home where I belong? He looked at me funny, and then he pulled me into a bear hug. It was the first human contact in months, actually. The next story is from Steve Zimmer in Chicago, Illinois. And again, these, originally you hear them in their voices. I am not these people, but I will do my best to at least give some sense to their words. Bless you. In honor of America's space program, my child-hating first grade teacher divides the class into three groups: the stars, the rockets, and the moons. Despite being a moon, I easily identify the low ability group. But even among the moons, I'm a bad moon. My report card says that I don't apply myself as a student, but also it questions my potential in case I do try. Now, my mom and dad don't actually apply themselves as parents, but even if they did, there's no way they could know that I have severe ADD because it doesn't exist yet, especially the quiet kind. So one morning I notice all my classmates have all brought in 5 different leaf species. I assume it's a coincidence. But then I look up at the nearest star, Kathy Welt. Her yellow folder says, "Leaf Day." And I'm like, I don't know it yet, but this moment will repeat itself in various forms throughout my life. So I request bathroom permission, and the teacher, Miss Ross, says, "Are you just trying to go outside and pick leaves?" And I say, "No." And she says, "Do you know what deception is?" And I'm like, "No." Which is true? Hello, I'm a moon. I don't know. That story amuses me very much. The third story is from Carlos Kotkin from Los Angeles. When I was 20 years old, I dropped out of college and got a job as a chauffeur to an old school Hollywood producer. My main responsibility was to drive him around town, but he would take me into meetings and introduce me as his associate. And he would encourage me to speak up. He had a script that he was developing at 20th Century Fox, and we had many meetings there. After 2 years of chauffeuring, I wrote to the Fox executive I'd grown to know during the script meetings, and I told him I was looking for something new. Not realizing that I was the producer's driver, the executive set up an interview for me with the president of the studio as a candidate for a job as the newest studio executive. To my surprise, when the president of the studio found out I had dropped out of college, we got into a debate about the importance of college degrees. It ended with me telling him, "You kind of sound like my mother." And he hired me. So each of these stories comes with some perceptions of limitations. Randy was in a position where there's a mugger and a victim, but she could see past that limitation of roles to connect as a person. Steve could identify that he was considered low achievement. But in a sense, he used that as a shield to be like, oh no, I'm too dumb to know that I'm lying to you. He would not let her perception keep him from going ahead and doing what he needed to do. And Carlos did not let the idea of not actually being a studio person or have a college degree keep him from that job that he wanted. They also all had another thing, grand desire. Randy really wanted to get back to Kentucky. Steve really wanted to feel better about himself and do better in the world, and Carlos really wanted to further himself in the industry. So what does the other side of that look like? Well, I have a little story from my life. When I was 24, 25, I was living in Cincinnati. I'd gone out to dinner with a friend and a couple of his friends who ran a design studio that did home interiors. And about halfway through the meal, I said something along the lines of, I would be really interested in getting to work with you guys and find out what that's about. Because at that time I was managing a bookstore. And the gentleman who owned the studio just looked at me and went, well, we don't sell a lot of books in our industry. Did I stand up and say, I have a degree in visual art and a big color theory background, which I should have? But no, I didn't. Did my friend stand up for me? No, they did not. Self-promotion has always been one of my stumbling points. So I accepted his limitation of my abilities and my view. I did not, at that point, go beyond just the desire to break out of that limitation. Not that it would have changed anything in the long run of my life, but in that moment, I could have at least changed his perception of how he judges people immediately based on what their current situation is. So, the first line of today's daily word. There may have been times I doubted my ability to create the life of my highest imaginings and resigned myself to living a limited life. We are in the Lenten season. I would really like us to give up limitations, self-imposed and otherwise. I have a lot of gifts in this life, and I'm learning to be better at that standing up and self-promotion part. I think somewhere in my youth, the blessed are the meek, and humility as a virtue settled in really deep into me, to the point when people would really be proud of themselves and stand up for themselves. It was very off-putting to me. And I have to find that balance of, it's not bragging if you're just explaining the truth, right? So there is that sense of pride and ego versus standing up for oneself. Who here has ever owned a fish, a goldfish, an aquarium, a tank, any of that stuff? Okay, like half of you. There's a saying that a fish will grow to the size of its tank. How many of you are familiar with that concept? It is partly true. So the bigger the tank, the more the fish will typically grow, but it's not because they just go, oh, look, I have all this room. When fish are living their lives, they excrete hormones that will end up kind of polluting the water they're in. So if it's a smaller bit of water, that will actually inhibit their growth. It's an evolutionary thing to keep them, if they get caught in a small body of water, from outgrowing it, or at least outgrowing it too easily. But the same thing happens with us, right? In our minds, in our concepts. When I box myself in too tight, it's not that I'm just keeping it small. I'm actually kind of polluting myself and stunting that growth of myself because I won't let myself go beyond those walls. So, for me, I love, especially in New Thought and Unity, I love fish as reminders for me. First of all, my name is Trout. Hello. But also, fish are very symbolic. In Christianity, of course, you have the fishers of men. You have the original symbol of Christianity being the simple fish with two arcs. We have the fact that Peter was a fisherman, all of those things. And in metaphysics, when we read about fish, when we scripturally study fish, it's really about our ideas, especially those God-given ideas, right? Those are the fish. And the water is the mind. That body of water is the mind. So for me, again, this is a really helpful visual reminder of don't close your mind. Don't box it in. Don't let that toxicity surround you so that you keep yourself small. So why do we accept those limitations? I want to know. That's a question. Why do we?
We were taught to accept them.
Very often we were taught very young what those limitations were. Or sometimes even later on. But yeah, we're often taught those. What else?
I think we're afraid a lot of times to reach our potential.
Heavens, yes. We are afraid of our own potential. We're afraid of failure, but we are just as afraid of success and that growth. It's right. It's terrifying. Oh my heavens, what happens if I expand that big? Then I have to fall, right? No, you don't. But that fear comes in and holds us back. So we've got the conditioning and the fear working against us. I want to live a limitless life. And I want you to live a limitless life. Because seeing a limitless life for me means I have to see it for you and see it for others. Right? It can't be limitless for me, but I put limitations on you. Who here is familiar with the paradox of intolerance? I'm just curious. Oh, really? No hands. Maybe when I explain it, you will be. But the paradox of intolerance was originally proposed, I believe, 1945, yes, by Karl Popper. And basically it says, in a tolerant society where we want to tolerate all views, what we can't tolerate is intolerance. Because when you tolerate intolerance, it becomes dominant, and then tolerance no longer exists. The best analogy that I've heard of this, to put it really succinctly for me, was thinking, because we think of tolerance as, I accept everybody. Great, that's wonderful, right? And everybody should accept everybody. But then when somebody does something that you can't accept, they're like, well, I thought you were tolerant. So here's the thing, it's a social contract. I'm tolerant, and therefore I hope you will be tolerant too. As soon as you become intolerant, that breaks the contract. I no longer have to honor my side of the contract because you broke it. So it's the same thing when we look at imposing limits. I have to see you as limitless, right? I see myself as limitless, I see it as you. I can't impose it on you. I do want to be very clear about one thing, though. There's a very big difference between limits and healthy boundaries. Just because you want other people to have a limitless life does not mean that they are to use you as a doormat. That's not the right thing, right? Healthy boundaries are there to protect you from things that injure you. You are allowed to stand up for that. In fact, you are required to stand up for that, and you're required to stand up for that for others as well. So just to be clear, doesn't matter who it's coming from. Family, we love them. Workers, we may love them, right? Hopefully we love everybody. But it doesn't matter where it's coming from. You are not there to be abused. Set healthy boundaries. But we're getting back to those fears, those things that get in our way, the conditioning and the fears. There was an article from Psychology Today that I was reading. Now, it's from about 2 years ago. Much longer than I'm going to quote here, but just some of the highlights of it. It talked about exposure therapy and some of the proof of the efficacy of exposure therapy, where there's the thing you fear, the thing you have anxiety about, so you take it in small doses, controlled doses, until you can get better accustomed to it, and that can work in getting us over some of these fears, some of these inhibitions. But in order to confront our fears, we've got to make ourselves vulnerable, bless you. And it's the vulnerability where we often pull up short. It's like, I want to confront it, but I don't want to be vulnerable. I've been hurt. I've seen people hurt. In order to make myself vulnerable, I'm giving somebody an opportunity to make an attack. But if you can't be vulnerable, you can't address your fear. Sometimes you can't even identify it. With that fear, with that, like the why can't, the X factor, that what is the thing? So they talk about that fear of vulnerability being the facade that keeps us separate from other people and separate from identifying those fears. So we need a safe place. Now, a lot of people find that in therapy. You'll find somebody that you can actually speak with, speak to, feel safe revealing yourself to, which they call a therapeutic alliance. Wonderful, right? It's great. Recommend therapy, absolutely. Not everybody can afford it. Not everybody's comfortable doing therapy. They talk in this article about the film Limitless, which unfortunately I didn't see, but Chris Hemsworth in the film confronts his fears, confronts his limits, confronts all of those anxieties. And as he's going through the film, he also discovers that he personally is at greater risk for Alzheimer's disease, which they left in the film. But in learning that possible fate, Chris Hemsworth confronted it. He confronted that fear of that limitation, and it allowed him to reprioritize his life. Not to see it just as a limit, but like, this is how I can now approach things, and this is what's going to be important to me. As Michael talked about last week and sang so beautifully about in Gethsemane from Jesus Christ Superstar, that moment that Jesus is confronting, right? He had taken his faith, his love, his wisdom with him to the garden at the foot of the mount. But faith, love, and wisdom fell asleep. So there you are confronting, and you don't feel that support from those things. We have to embrace that pain, right? You don't get through it by ignoring it. You have to embrace it and move on. But we're so afraid of that vulnerability. We're so afraid of the thing that we fear, even if we can't identify it. Again, daily word, there may have been times I doubted my ability to create the life of my highest imaginings and resign myself to living a limited life. So, what are some other tools for getting around that? I adore the book Lessons in Truth by H. Emily Cady. Who has read Lessons in Truth? I'm curious. Not enough. Okay. We need to do a study group of that book sometime soon. It was my introduction into New Thought. I find her so accessible, so clear in her thinking. So some of the things that she talks about are our approach to affirmations, right? Because sometimes when our faith and our love and our wisdom have gone to sleep, we get to fall back on the simple things, the repetitive things, the affirmations and denials. So Emily says in Lessons in Truth, most of us reach for higher spiritual knowledge out of a dissatisfaction or an unsatisfaction with the present conditions of life. And I love that idea of unsatisfaction. Dissatisfied is like, oh, I don't like that thing. Unsatisfied means there's something left unfulfilled, right? There's not enough of something in my life. So when I'm feeling unsatisfied, we reach for that spiritual connection. We're at the garden with our faith, love, and wisdom, right? And that feeling of being unsatisfied is that prompting of the divine within us. That is a divine prompt for something that is missing. But the problem is we have to be able to identify it, right? We have to be able to say, this is what I need. It's there. The divine does not give you that prompt without being able to answer the prompt. But if you can't say, this is what I need, it's just kind of floating around and waiting for you to grab it. In Mark 11:24, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Now there's a place of stillness, that place that we go to of stillness, where we can realize that it's not our doing that makes things happen, right? We ask for it, but the divine sets everything in order. And for me, I think going to that place of stillness, going into the silence, to me, is like that therapeutic alliance. that I can have with a therapist, a professional out there, but it's with the divine. Because I can tell the divine anything. You can tell God your deepest, darkest, worst things, because you know what? God already knows. What are you hiding? How are you, what do you think? It's like, no, just be open. Say, this is, here are all my flaws, you know them. Help me. This is what I want, this is what I need. So, we have to do this in sincerity. When we are praying, when we are asking, when we are identifying, when we are affirming, you have to mean it. And I know sometimes, again, we talk about that faith the size of a mustard seed and that's all you have. That's okay. It may be numb, it may be dozing, but it's there. Mean it. And then the affirmations, the asserting positively what we already know is true. Because there's only one presence, right? Going back to the fish for just a moment, one other connection with fish, the one presence. There's the story of the fish looking for water, right? And asks the little fish asks the big adult fish, I hear about water all the time. Where is it? And the big fish is like, it's here. It's like, but I don't see it. No, it's here. It's all around you. But I want to know what it is. It's in you. You are literally in it, and it is in you. Like the big fish telling the little fish, that's God, right? And we do the same thing. It's like, but I want to see it. It's like, well, you are. Well, I want to feel it. You are. In you, through you, as you. All of that. So the saying over and over of an affirmation. I love how Emily Cady puts this. She says that our mind needs this constant repetition of truth to, quote, unclothe it and to clothe it anew. Right, it sounds lovely. My brain translates that to, oh, that's how I break down my old neural pathways and create new neural pathways that are healthier and more spiritually based. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going back into the old neural pathways, right? Those synapses just fire, and you go right back to the old fears and anxieties. That's why we repeat these things, and repeat them, and repeat them, and repeat them, but always sincerely. We are expanding the tank so that our ideas are not stunted, right? So there are three kind of all-purpose affirmations that Emily gives. The first one is up here. Please say it with me. God is life, love, intelligence, substance, omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. Right? Everything, every particle, every vibration, it's all God. The second, read this one with me as well. I am a child or manifestation of God, and in every moment, God's life, love, wisdom, and power flow into me and through me. I am one with God, and I am governed by divine law. So if we are one, which we know we are, that means divine law is also who we are. And repeating this affirmation, repeating any affirmation, any prayer, it doesn't change God. What does it change? You. That's why we do it. We are the only thing we have direct control over. We change us. We change from the inside out. The third and the final one for this talk, although there are others you can read from her. God works in me to will and do whatsoever God wishes me to do, and God cannot fail. Say that last phrase again. God cannot fail. Our affirming that we are in alignment with God and seeking to be in alignment with God, seeking to do only good, seeking to do the work of God, working with and through God and God with and through us brings about success. Because God is life, love, intelligence, substance. And 1 John chapter 4, pardon me. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how we know that we live in him and he in us. He has given us of his Spirit. Or as Jesus said in Matthew 22, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. We know God because we know love. And we love our neighbors as we love ourselves. God is love, God is life, but not just for you, for everybody. We see it for everybody. Micah Edmondson, who's pastor of the New City Fellowship OPC Presbyterian Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, said, "You cannot love your neighbor while supporting systems that crush, exploit, and dehumanize them. You cannot love your neighbor while accepting less for them and their family than you do for you and your own." Amen to that. There's also an unattributed quote, I wish I could have found the source of this, that says, "We are not here to honor our ancestors as much as we are here to be good ancestors to future generations. We are the stewards of this world. There are no limitations set upon you, so what can you do now, tomorrow, to be a good steward, to be a good ancestor?" I believe it's the Iroquois who established the 7 generations principle. They look back 7 generations that they remember and honor, but they look ahead 7 generations that they are preparing for. Puts our little time here in perspective, doesn't it? 15 generations wide, and we're just in the middle of it. So don't get mired in the past. Respect it, honor it. But we are preparing the world now and for the future, for the coming generations. And I want to finish. I started with 3 short stories. I want to finish with a slightly longer story and then a very brief meditation. This story comes from our friend Rich Baker, who used to live here locally. Some of you may know him. He now lives in Florida. And he had posted this to social media this week. "This might be a downer of a post, so fair warning. You might want to pass on it. I said goodbye to Bill today, the man who came to Florida to die. Bill is from Kansas City, Kansas, and has brain cancer. I met Bill somehow through my postings on Facebook. He's deleted Facebook now. He has liked my adventures around the state that I've posted on here, and he asked about places to go and visit. I, of course, provided him with so much info that at one point I became interested in him and his life. We met one day for drinks, and he told me his real story. I found out that this 60-year-old divorced man learned he had an inoperable brain tumor in early December. So he leased a Mercedes and decided to leave his very cold state and travel to where it is warmer to die. Instead of living in Airbnbs, which I assumed he did, he lived in his car. So you're homeless, I asked, and he said, no. He had money, but he only spent it when he wanted to. He was a career Army vet, serving 2 conflicts in the Mideast, married with 2 kids, and his life turned upside down 2.5 years ago when his teenage kids died in a car accident, which caused the divorce, because he didn't want to seek therapy. His last parent, he was an only child, died later that year. And then trying to deal with single life again, he discovered he had this brain cancer. He did the surgery and thought they removed it, but alas, it came back. With no one in his world anymore, he wanted to come to sunny Florida to live out the few months left. I kept him amused, he said. I suggested different places around the state to experience. He loved to travel, and being alone didn't really bother him until he needed to talk. I was his earpiece. Being homeless to me was a sad thing, but to him it wasn't. His car was very clean, and you'd never know he was sleeping in it because he kept all his clothes in the trunk. I soon discovered you can sleep at truck stops, wash clothes and shower there too. I had no idea, nor had even thought about it. I told him he looked normal, to which he laughed. So how was it going to end? I promised him I would check in on him every other day to make sure he's okay. He told me he would let me know when it was time. Recently, his headaches were getting worse for him, and he blacked out at times. I told him to make sure those days he didn't drive, and he did, I assume. Today, he sent me a message saying goodbye, that I was a good friend to him and always kept it positive. He's either going to hospice near Jacksonville or will take all his pills. I respect whatever decision he makes. He has taught me a lot in this short period of time about myself and life. I wish Bill peace. So do I, Rich. So, talk about thinking big in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? Oh, I'm going to die alone in the cold. Nope. I'm going to get a car, drive to sunny Florida, meet new people, see new things, live out my life the way I want to. Bill saw past his own limitations. Rich saw past Bill's limitations. That's not just expanding the fish tank, that's breaking out all the walls, right? You're just swimming in the ocean at that point. That's what I want for all of us. So on that note, I want to go to a brief meditation to finish out today. So if you would go ahead and close your eyes, feet flat on the floor, hands over your heart. I want you to take a nice deep breath in and let it out. As you continue breathing, take it in through the crown of your head. Breathe right in from above down into your heart. Feel that heart center of love. Keep breathing in to that heart center and out from there. And if it feels right, allow my words to be your words. Thank you, Divine Spirit, for the gift of my life in this world. I know that I am here to do things that no one else can do in quite the same way. In the past, I may have perceived limitations of my relationships, or limitations of my qualifications, or limitations of how other people see me. But I release those imaginary boundaries. I transcend any past misconceptions of limitation. And now I see the God-given desires of my heart. Every dream I hold is pulling me closer to fulfillment. I feel that presence of God flowing through me, working through me, working in me as this world. I am a child of God, a manifestation of the divine, and every moment, God's life, love, wisdom, and power flow into me and out again. As I pray, I feel the limitations of the world fall away. And in the silence, I feel the presence of God and the fullness of my own divinity. I am the very face of God. I rest in that truth as we go into the spiritual alliance with the divine and can reveal our true selves to the infinite in the silence. I live with the assurance of my divinity. Today I make a new choice. I see myself as fully divine and fully human. I am so much more than my past, Even if I have made decisions or choices in the past that I would choose to change, I have the assurance that with each new day, I can begin again and build the life I want to live, a life without limits. I am the face of God. You are the face of God. This is the enduring truth of who we are. And by this we know that we abide in God and God in us, because God has given us of their own Spirit. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and sing along with us. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. Sing that to somebody else in the room. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. And your life knows no limits. And so it is. Amen, amin, aho, ashe. Namaste.